Welcome to another episode of Christ Fellowship Conversations. Today we are joined by our friend and special guest Bradley Pinkerton. He and his wife just went to Romania on a mission trip. And Bradley, can you tell us how long you were there and what you did?
So we were in Sighet, Romania for 11 days. Sighet is in the far northern part of Romania, bordering on Ukraine. And we were there to train pastors.
So tell us about who you went with, what they've been doing there, and then also what you decided to teach on because of that.
We went with a group called Training Leaders International. This is a group connecting with Desiring God Ministries, Bethlehem Baptist Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They have been training leaders for 5 or 6 years now as an organization, but their partnership in Romania has been happening for about a year now. They have had one class in the past on the attributes of God. Our class was the second installation of the training program that focused on biblical theology, how to read the entirety of the scriptures together as one story. We focused on the grand narrative of scripture, of how all things are tied into Christ and to the gospel, how to read stories of scripture within their larger context of the chapter, of the book, and even of the Bible itself.
So you were teaching the men, the pastors there. Now, what was your wife doing?
She was able to minister directly to the women, some of the children, but mainly she spent her time with the women there, training, teaching, discipling, and learning as well from our sisters there in Romania.
A lot of us haven't been to Romania. I never have. What's an average pastor there? What's he like? What's life like for him?
So in Romania, they have a lot fewer vocational ministers than we do here in the United States. The reason for that is primarily economic. They are not able to support full-time vocational pastors with the frequency that you see here in the United States. What that means is that you have a lot of lay leaders within the church who are taking on great pastoral roles such as teaching, preaching, and counseling all throughout the week as they work with a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday.
So what if someone says, why spend all that time, all those resources? I mean, why not just buy this pastor a car or something like that?
2 John is the shortest book in the New Testament, and the reason for that John clarifies at the end of the letter. He says, there are many things I would like to say to you, but I cannot say them with pen and ink. I will come to you shortly, and I will see you face to face. John is saying that there's something more to pastoral training than just base knowledge. There is a face-to-face interaction, a fellowship, and a discipleship, a whole person perspective that is needed as we see pastors raised up.
And a lot of people think that only guys like you and me can do it. We've had professional, Bible training, seminary degree training, but what I learned, your average churchgoer, your average Christian who's grown up in the church, he or she is actually a lot more equipped to do work like this than they might think they are. For example, I was training one of the pastors that I was teaching in Belize when we were there, and one of the assignments was, hey, pick this person in the Bible to study more and learn more about. And he said, well, I want to study Timothy because I don't know anything about Timothy. And it just shocked me because here he was, a pastor in his church, and he didn't know anything about Timothy or the books of 1st and 2nd Timothy, which are called the pastoral epistles. And so we are much more equipped than we think that we are to do work like this in our own neighborhood and globally, even if you've just grown up in the church and have general Bible knowledge.
I think that's definitely the case. And it's so easy to overlook that because we want more people to be saved. We want more Christians out there, but as our pastor frequently reminds us, we want both more disciples and better disciples. And so the vision, the biblical foundation for pastoral training comes to us in a couple of places in Scripture. One of those is 2 Timothy chapter 2, where Paul says, the things that you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust also to other faithful men who will be able to teach others also. Paul there is saying to Timothy, the gospel doesn't stop with you, nor does church leadership stop with you. You now have the opportunity to expand it, in Timothy's case in Ephesus, by raising up more trained leaders who will raise up more trained leaders, because Paul said this is how the gospel will continue to be preserved throughout the generations. So there in 2 Timothy chapter 2, Paul actually has 4 different generations in mind. Paul, Timothy, the people whom Timothy was discipling, and those who would be discipled by the ones who Timothy had discipled. So 4 different generations. Paul says, I want all of them to hear the gospel and receive the same foundation that you have. The other is in Acts chapter 20. Paul is ministering there, also in the city of Ephesus, and he says that he spent 3 years. He says, for 3 years, night and day, I did not cease proclaiming to you the full counsel of God.
What would you say is some of the ways that we can get involved in helping in this?
Sure. So I think the first way we can get involved, that all of us need to do, is to know and study and love the Scriptures. This is God's inspired word to His church, and it is given to us as a stewardship, not only to know and love God ourselves, but also to be more equipped to train and lead others. I think secondly, begin to teach as well as learn the Scriptures from other people right around us. Mm-hmm. You spoke about being amazed at some of the ignorance of the Scriptures around the world, but the fact is that I think all of us can be amazed at the ignorance of Scriptures right around us, and all of us must be amazed even at the ignorance of Scriptures in ourselves, in our own lives. And so this is part of our process of growth as Christians, is to crave the Scriptures like a newborn babe craves milk, as Peter talks about in 2 Peter. The third way, I think, is to be involved in global missions. Training Leaders International is a great organization. It's only one organization that is involved in this great work of bringing pastoral training and theological education around the world.
Thank you, Bradley, very much. We are glad for what you did. We're going to be doing more things like this as Christ Fellowship Church, and of course we want all of us to get involved in that. There's goers and there's senders, and so we all work together. So thank you very much, Bradley.
Thank you.